Hunter Biden's breaking his silence, and he's distancing himself from his daddy.
Do you think Joe Biden was involved in some cover-up? Do you think Jake Tapper's telling the truth when he says that I was the acting chief of staff of the president? I was in that White House 12 days over the course of the last 2 years of the administration. Clearly, because I had other things going on. Okay? You ask one person to go on the record that would ever tell you that I was in any way making a single decision about anything in that White House. I stayed as far away as I possibly could, which, by the way, broke my heart.
It's so bad, even Hunter doesn't want to be associated with the Biden administration. The coup and the landslide shattered the structure of the party into a million pieces. And now it's up to Gavin and Tampon to save it from the commies. Black Rogan, Jamie Harrison, just launched a podcast and booked Tampon as his first guest. And the party's so broke, they couldn't afford 2 couches, so they had to share.
In Winnie the Pooh, Democrats are a donkey, but we are sure as hell are Eeyore most of the time.
Yeah.
It is a woe is me party, and everything is dark and dim. And the Republicans remind me of Tigger. Tigger will everything up. I mean, he will just mess it all up, but never take any ownership of it. Right? Still hopeful and joyful and bouncing around and messing other things up.
I never thought of that analogy, but it is pretty apt.
Who you calling a Tigger? Trump spent 6 months cleaning up your mess. Democrats are only woe is me because they're the party of women and they're out of power. Trump's bouncing around having a good time because he's pumping up American business. And even though Timmy and Jamie have never run a business, they want you to know they're not Marxists.
Donald Trump sells snake oil or whatever, but it's capturing this idea of wealth and being able to be successful, which we as Democrats, we want people to pay their fair share, but why are we against people being successful like that? We can't be. Why are we against? We should talk about businesses. Not all businesses exploit their workers, and we get ourselves stuck in that.
Oh, well,
and
Governor,
I think we lose them.
Not all businesses exploit their workers. Way to go, Tampon. The Chinese honeymoon's officially over. But the racism, that's still sticking. Tampon says one time a black guy told him not all black guys are criminals.
This is one that Wes Moore is really good at and talked to me about, talking about black men and what happened. And he said, you get a lot of good-hearted politicians that'll come to black men in the community and talk about we restored felon voting rights. And he said, not knowing how insulting that is for these young men.
Tampon just found out not every black guy has a record. Waltz is learning things from all kinds of people. He just found out from his son that Trump's fun.
My son was able to vote as an 18-year-old, and I asked him about his take is, especially young white men, is he said, Dad, a lot of them aren't about the policies. Mm-hmm. They're about the thrill and the excitement, and, Trump brings the circus type of thing.
Yeah. Then it was time to throw Kamala under the bus. And we've never heard this before from him. He's always been a very loyal number 2. Tampon called Kamala lazy. He called her a quitter.
Trump even gets the whole thing about, being part of a team, give them the same hat, the same slogans and stuff like that. It's maddening to us. For a while there in August, I think we were giving them that place to go. You gave it to him in Chicago. You gave him something. And then we just kind of quit.
We did.
He didn't quit for 4 years.
Imitation is the greatest form of flattery. Democrats may hate Trump, but they love that he's the real deal. Quote, party leaders are swearing more, recording more direct-to-camera videos, and trying to project an authenticity many voters have come to associate with Trump. You can't act authentic. You either are or you aren't. Black Rogan was downright giddy to tell Tampon that the only rule was no rules.
It's family talk. It's street talk. There's no frills, no fancy words. Good. Feel free to drop F-bombs or whatever you got to do whenever you got to do it.
Everybody wants to be like Trump. After 47 served fries at Mickey D's, Gavin's locking up the Hispanic vote, making tortillas. Remember when Trump posted a taco bowl on Cinco de Mayo, they called him racist? But what do they call Gavin sweating in the back of a Mexican restaurant? At least he learned his lesson. He's not serving caviar at the French Laundry. Meanwhile, no matter how hard the white guys try, the commies stealing their base and their property.
Would life be better if we just abolished private property?
I think it probably would be better. That's not what my platform is. that I'm saying to abolish it, but my platform is to decommodify it. The system has hundreds of thousands of people unhoused, right? For what? And if there was any system that could guarantee each person housing, whether you call it the abolition of private property or you call it, just a statewide housing guarantee, it is preferable to what is going on right now.
Kami Mamdani says abolishing private property is a good idea. This is the guy Democrats are swooning over because he's so authentic. I guess he is authentic. He's saying the things the rest of the Democrats believe but are afraid to say. That's why they love him. So if I understand this correctly, Mamdani is a commie, but he's not running as a commie.
This guy is not a communist. He's not a socialist. He's an advocate for small c capitalism. And that, he really is fighting for the little business guy that's trying to eke out a living in New York. Half of all New Yorkers, get their jobs from small business.
More like small c communist. It is a red wave, and not the good kind. First New York, now Minneapolis. Here's their next mayor.
It is a big spending bill. Like I said, it's $400 million, but to be honest, it's not an expense, it's an investment. It is relatively small compared to the scope of the issue of systemic racism. This country was founded on wealth extraction from the labor of Black people, and that legacy will just not fade by itself. It needs to be uprooted.
This is what the next 3 years is going to look like. Semi-straight white guys trying to win back the working man, while a young communist typhoon sweeps the base off its feet. Even CNN admits the Dems are cooked.
The bottom line is this. Democrats are behind their 2006 and 2018 paces when it comes to the generic congressional ballot. Look at where we are now. Democrats are ahead, but by just 2 points. Look at where Democrats were already ahead by in 2017. They were behind by 7 points. How about 2005 on the generic congressional ballot? Ahead by 7 points, ahead by 7 points, and now they're only ahead by 2 points.
Not only are the American people quitting the Democrats, Democrats, like Kamala, are quitting on the American people. Senator Spartacus and his crew are just walking off the job instead of doing it.
Why are you doing this? This is outrageous.
This is a kangaroo court. That's all we have here, Mr. Chairman.
This is wrong. To violate your own rules without going by the mandates of the parliamentarian. This is unbelievable. There's a way to do this. If you want to force this through, if you want to ram this through, there's a way to do it in accordance to the rules as spelled out by the parliamentarian. It is simple. It is clear. There's a pathway to achieve what you're trying to achieve.
More bad news for the Democratic Party. Take a look.
Congressional Democrats have been trying to seize on this. You hear them also parroting what you're hearing online, saying, release the files, this is terrible, blah, blah, blah. I mean, is that working for them?
No, I mean, look, here's what's so important. We talk about the potential of Republicans leaving Donald Trump. They're not leaving him. But what about congressional Democrats and problems with their own base? Democrats' net approval of congressional Democrats, according to Quinnipiac University, in June of 2025, it was their second worst ever at minus 12 points. It's not low enough for you? How about we go even lower? In July of 2025, minus 13 points, their worst net approval rating for congressional Democrats among Democrats ever. Donald Trump is not the one who has problems with his political base. It is congressional Democrats are the ones who have problems with their own political base.
And then, by the way, they go on to point out Donald Trump, well, his numbers went up from last month. Now, the left's latest smear is not working. At the same time, Democrats now have their worst approval rating in history. Look at this. It's even worse in a brand new Quinnipiac poll where congressional Democrats now have a record low 19% approval rating. But Democrats, if you are watching tonight, let not your heart be troubled, because your party's so-called leaders, they have come up with a plan, a new plan. Since they can't beat Donald Trump, they're going to try and channel Donald Trump. According to a report, Washington Post, Democrats are now coordinating their public remarks to we'll pretend they're less scripted, with more cursing and, quote, Trumpier insults. I wonder if this came from the extensive amount of millions of dollars they spent on research on how to communicate properly with men. Hey, Joe, did you see the big game last night? Joe, want to go grab a brewski? Man, I really like that girl. What do you think of her? Really? You have to, it's so inauthentic, lacking all authenticity. Anyway, Democrats are fake, phony. They're now scripting a plan to seem less scripted. Figure that out. Naturally, presidential wannabe Gavin Newsom, he's already testing the waters. He got the message early. Take a look.
It's a weakness masquerading as strength. That's what I don't like about this son of a bitch. I don't. And forgive me, I know he's the president of the United States. Forgive me, I didn't, you know.
Yeah, forgive me, I came right out of the research. Now, the one thing they all know is they can't be themselves. Why? Because they're so out of touch with all of you, and they lack authenticity. So Trumpian insults is not the Democrats' biggest problem. Instead, it's the very authentic, very radical Marxist base that now is the bigger part of that party. That is the power structure of the Democratic Party. And Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, they're not going to dare take on Jasmine Crockett or AOC or the Squad or Mamdani and, you know, turning off scores of insane American voters. Why would they do that? In fact, most Americans now detest communism for good reason. It is responsible for the death of millions and suffering of billions and more poverty than you can imagine. When Democrats nominate an actual communist Marxist to be the next mayor of America's biggest cities, voters across the entire country take note. And tonight, a newly unearthed video shows Marxist Mamdani advocating for the government to ban private property. Karl Marx would be proud. Take a look.
Would life be better if we just abolished private property and transformed our society into a more collective, egalitarian one?
I think it probably would be better. I mean, I think that, like, look, that's not what my platform is, that I'm saying to abolish it, but my platform is to decommodify it. My platform is that every single person should have housing. If there was any system that could guarantee each person housing, whether you call it the abolition of private property or you call it, you know, just a statewide housing guarantee, it is preferable to what is going on right now.
All right, this is now the third or fourth video where Mamdani is pushing for actual Soviet-style hammer and sickle Marxism, communism. So take note, comrades out there, when someone tells you who they are, believe them. Make no mistake, Mamdani's extremism, it knows no bounds. In fact, in the very same interview, Mamdani even questioned the purpose of prisons. What? Take a look.
Are prisons obsolete?
Whew, coming through with the quotes, coming through with the titles of the books. I have to read that, actually. I haven't read that as yet. But I think that, frankly, I mean, what purpose do they serve? Right? I think we have to ask ourselves that, which is that, you know, I think a lot of people who defend the carceral state, they defend the idea of it and the way it makes them feel. They're not defending the reality of it and the practices that are part and parcel of it.
Now, what purpose could they actually serve? Maybe keeping violent offenders, murderers, rapists, other violent criminals away from peace-loving Americans so they have law and order and safety and security for themselves, their children. Just a thought. And now couple Mamdani's prison ban with his call to defund the police and send in the social workers to violent crime scenes. Sir, are you threatening to kill all these people? Is it because of something that might have happened in your childhood? I don't think that's going to work. And, of course, he wants to seize private property, control New York's food supply, raise taxes, especially on people living in whiter neighborhoods, and somehow abolish billionaires. And let's not forget his rabid anti-Semitism. He cannot even simply reject the calls for global intifada. Mamdani is scary for not only New York, but for the country. But it is also the state of the modern extreme, radicalized Democratic Socialist Party. And, you know, nowhere do the lights shine any brighter than the media capital of the world. But instead of speaking out against this kind of extremism, no. Democrats are either cowering in fear or they're lavishing praise on their new favorite Marxist communists. Take a look.
I will endorse him. Look, he's a very charismatic, relatable person.
I think he's a very personable, smart young man.
He's not a socialist. He's an advocate for small c capitalism.
He is so smart, so authentic. Anybody that's staying out at this point instead of endorsing this incredible dynamic leader is missing an opportunity.
Here's a crazy thought. You think it's impossible? Think Mamdani might run for president in 28? No. Don't rule it out. It gets even more nauseating. Apparently, Maryland Senator, remember Chris Von Hollen? He was the biggest fan of Abrego Garcia. He has a thing for bad people. Anyway, first he was pictured with a margarita staring deeply into the eyes of an accused human trafficker, gang member, illegal immigrant, and now here he is with that same loving gaze peering into the eyes of a radical Marxist who wants to seize your house, tax you to death, and put you in a beautiful commune. But this is the state of the modern Democratic Party. They want to totally dismantle the United States of America as we know it. They think capitalism is evil. They do not believe in meritocracy. They don't believe in hard work, and they want to rule our country with an iron fist and a sickle and a hammer with woke social workers, not police. And for anyone who seems to think it might be a good idea, I do encourage you to speak with someone who maybe immigrated from Castro's Cuba or the former Soviet Union or North Korea or any other communist hellhole where things are so miserable that people will get on broken down, dilapidated, rickety boats in shark-infested waters and try and navigate to their way to freedom to escape life under communism.
I know. That's right. That's right. Just one more hour till Trace Gallagher. Happy Thursday, everyone. So Kristi Noem hinted that people will now be able to bring more than 3.4 ounces of liquid on flights. But one woman is hoping that they up that to a half gallon. Let's do it. I'm with you, baby. Andrew Cuomo is being blasted for a new campaign ad where he helps jumpstart a man's car, which is odd considering he usually only stops to check out women's headlights. Hunter Biden said he tried to stay out of his dad's administration. It's true. He claimed he was just living at the White House because he wanted to bang Jill. The New York Times editorial claims defunding NPR and PBS is like defunding the police. It's true. Think of all the times you've been violently assaulted and thought, man, if only the cast of Downton Abbey were here. Trump's tariffs brought in $64 billion in the second quarter. Even Biden officials were impressed, saying, think of how many drag shows in Africa that could pay for. A New York man who filmed up to 13,000 people in a hospital bathroom won't get jail time. But thanks to all that experience filming hours of crap, he's been named head of programming at CNN. Worked on that one. All right. I apologize for this next joke. On Wednesday, a speeding truck spilled over 20,000 rotten eggs in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Why was he in such a hurry? Well, he didn't want to be the last one there. All right. I'm not explaining it because I'm ashamed of it. Oh, it gets worse. It gets worse. The Steve Miller Band has canceled all of its tour dates because of global warming.
Oh, God.
Yeah, organizers admit it's a waste of fuel to go from Phoenix, Arizona, all the way to Tacoma, Philadelphia, Atlanta, LA. Nice. And finally, according to a new study, magic mushrooms can extend the lifespan of rodents. Yeah. Well, I guess Richard Gere's gerbil gets to go on 2 trips. Yeah, he gets to go on 2 trips now. Not just 1, but 2 trips. All right. So Joe Biden's longtime aide was called to testify on Joe's decline. Well, I hope someone asked him if President Joe Biden was fit to exercise the duties of the president.
Was President Joe Biden fit to exercise the duties of the president?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Gotta say, it's good to see that fella found work since they canceled Portlandia. But that was Jill Biden's so-called work husband, which is like being her regular husband, except with more solid food and less diarrhea. Anthony Brunel was Jill's chief of staff and an assistant to Joe Biden, which is pretty amazing, given that having just one of those jobs would have you skydiving without a parachute. But according to Jake Tapper's book, he had another job, running the country. He was part of a tight-knit inner circle they called the Politburo, who acted as Joe's ultimate decision makers. And according to his old staff, he was no Mr. Rogers, with one former aide calling him the worst person they ever met. Well, I guess he's never met this guy. But this fella is not just some loyal no-name. He's a main player. And he's the second Biden administration member to plead the fifth after his old doc refused to answer questions last week. I haven't seen this many people go quiet since Brit Hume asked Special Report if they wanted to see his tramp stamp. So obviously they're hiding something. Like, why would Joe never take any interviews? Who was behind the last-minute pardons? Who made the terrible decisions, the kind that turned a career moderate into a Bolshevik? And why was his schedule emptier than a swimming pool near a burrito truck? Meanwhile, Hunter has his own beef, saying the Dems only lost because lost to Trump because they weren't loyal to his father, the leader of the party. Yeah, that's the reason, champ. So you don't think the border had anything to do with it, or the sky-high inflation? How about the economy propped up by fake statistics and government jobs? Or the fact that Joe turned into a Volvo crash dummy every time he encountered a staircase? Appearing on the former DNC chair's podcast, think Joe Rogan for people who've been spayed or neutered. Hunter painted Joe's 24 bid in a positive light, that his father had the advantage of incumbency and an incredibly successful administration. Yeah, sorry, dude. Calling Biden's White House an incredibly successful administration is like calling Liquid Plumber an incredibly successful laxative. It's not. I learned the hard way. Hunter also called BS on Tapper's claim that he acted as his dad's chief of staff, saying that when it came to the White House, he stayed as far away as he possibly could. But we know better. The only time Hunter stays away is if Maury Povich tells him he's the dad. Fact is, Joe was never in charge. That's the real story, and it's one so shameful the media covered it up like black spray paint on Jesse's bald spot. So how do we get these answers? How do we give the most consequential political scandal of our time the justice that it deserves? House Republicans have an idea. Ask Joe and Jill. The GOP isn't ruling out calling on the former first couple to testify. Florida Congressman Byron Donalds said he wants to subpoena every member of the Biden administration about the cover-up. He claims he doesn't care if they were a secretary, a janitor, or even Joe's mortician. But I can picture it now. Comer would put Joe under oath, but first he'd have to ask him to turn around. But it's not like it can get any worse for the Dems. They're polling at an all-time low at 19%. They're less popular than AIDS at a kissing booth. I know. It's not popular at all. So will Joe take the stand, even if he can barely stand? Well, why not ask him? So, Joe, are you going to testify?
Oh, yeah, come on, man. I'll testify, all right. I'll raise my right hand, and I'll swear to hold the men and women and the thing. Anyway, look, I'm serious about this. Any court in the land, you pick the judge. Judge Judy, Judge Wapner. Wapner, he's a good guy. Wapner every day at 4. I used to watch him. And I remember I went on a road trip with my brother Charlie. And every day I made Charlie pull over the Buick Roadmaster so he could watch People's Court. That's right. And then we ended up in Vegas and counted cards. Made 85 grand. True story, not a joke.
Let's welcome tonight's guest. He looks like a guy who files noise complaints before 8 p.m. Fox News contributor Tom Shalhoub. You've seen him at clubs across the country selling hot dogs. Writer and comedian Joe DeVito. He uses big words and gives hope to nerds. Senior editor of the Free Press, Will Roth. And she hates government pork and once interviewed Bjork, host of the Kennedy Saves the World podcast, Kennedy. Tom, did you miss doing Joe Biden?
Yeah.
Hadn't done that in a while.
I know, it's good. It's good to be back. You know,
Takes you a while to get out of character.
exactly. It's no, I love doing it, even though it's the same joke every time.
No, they should not have listen.
No hearings?
I hate hearings. You never get anywhere with the hearings. The thing is, we all know what happened. We saw it with our own eyes. We saw it unfolding as he was president. And the idea that we're going to be like, discover something. We know he was an old man. He could barely function.
But then what about justice?
I mean, it's like, what are you going to do? I almost feel bad for these guys. Like this guy was terrible. He couldn't do his job. But you're the chief of staff. I mean, what are you going to do? Like, I wouldn't let him talk either.
Yeah.
I'd be like, we can't send him out there. That would be malpractice. So, the whole thing's, it's a mystery, Greg. I mean, are you going to get justice? What do you do?
I think if we had an actual journalism industry, they would go after this story like a dog on a bone. I just came up with that. But they won't. So it's up to us. And you're right. All hearings are is grandstanding. It's just a bunch of people who want to be on TV getting their sound bites. It's a lot harder than it looks. So I think, no, I get it, but you offer no solutions. I don't know why I have you on the show. Joe. Oh, thank you. You agree. DeVito, I love that Hunter Biden is accusing the Democrat Party of not being loyal to his dad. He banged his brother's wife.
Yeah.
His brother died, and he gets his brother's wife hooked on, what, meth?
Yeah.
And then bangs her. He basically turned her out like a whore.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh.
That's actually a good plan if your father's Joe Biden, because it's one less name for him to forget. So, but yeah, Hunter talking about loyalty. I mean, he's in the loyalty program for Motel 6. With every third stay, he gets a free prostitute. Yeah, it's insane. But I think Tom, in a way, has a point that I'm tired of this even being called a cover-up at this point, because we watched it happening. We saw Joe Biden at the debates. I've never seen a debate where the podium had an IV next to it and a handrail. I mean, it was a mess. So I think the only thing we can do is take a look at it and say, how do we stop this from happening again? But the part I want to see is if he was this incapacitated, these pardons have to be null and void, because
yes,
auto pen, he could work an auto crayon. He was out of it.
Okay. That's the solution Tom didn't come up with that you did, Joe. Yeah. You stay. Okay, so Will, all right, you kind of get where they're going at. They're saying we shouldn't have a committee, but imagine that the situation was reversed. This was a Republican administration that had a senile president that covered it up with the Dems and the media would go out of their way to destroy it. And instead, we're just going like, move on. That's wrong.
All right. Yeah. I mean, you're right. That is what would happen to a Republican. Like, we all know that.
Yes.
Republicans and Democrats are subjected to different rules by the mainstream press, the legacy press. Mm-hmm. But, hasn't this really taught us that maybe we don't even need a president? Like, I mean, isn't that sort of the big lesson? And not only that, you think about it, it's like maybe there's this new world order, this global cabal that controls everything. Mm-hmm. And then you find out it's really just kind of like a bunch of dopes. It's like Joe Biden, who at like his best was, not a genius, let's say.
Yeah.
And then his like closest friends, his people and everything, also probably not the brightest people in America. And they're running the show. The federal bureaucracy is marching along. The cabinet secretaries are doing their things. Yeah, a lot of bad stuff happens.
Yes,
but
a lot.
it's like, but it's the same bad stuff that would have happened if Biden was competent and with it.
Okay, I agree that the difference between no Biden and Biden in a Biden administration might be minimal.
Yeah.
But they got him into the White House based on a moderate thing, and then we end up with no border, all this trans hysteria, criminal justice reform that lets people out, and people like you, Will, on this show.
Thank you, Gregory.
You're welcome.
It's always good to see you.
It's great to see you. Later, drinks. Kennedy.
Hi.
How are you?
So good.
Great. So Joe brings up a good point about, okay, let's say you don't go after them in the sense of a committee hearing like they did with January 6th, which was this big theater, but you go after the pardons and you go after the commutations. There was two different things, I think. Is that possible? We've talked about this.
Well, if it is possible, I think Democrats would be all ears and all eyes because they want to figure out how to undo everything that Trump is doing right now. And they will anticipate. So if the precedent is that you can go ahead and pardon 4,000 plus people, then why wouldn't the Trump administration do that? Why, I'm sure there are plenty of people who are unjustly imprisoned and have been a victim of the criminal justice system across the country that they would also like to pardon. And Democrats will try and undo all of that. Mm-hmm. But it will fall on deaf ears because where was the outrage? Mm-hmm. And that's the problem with the whole thing. I mean, that's my biggest issue with the political system that we have is if the other guy was doing it, you would be incensed. But if your guy is doing it, you're enthralled. Like you can't get enough of it. And can we just stop putting a microphone in front of Hunter Biden's face? For him to say stupid things like, yeah, Jay Tapper said I was the chief of staff, and I wasn't the chief of staff. I lived there, but I never went there. And he has this like really high, goofy voice that's just impossible to listen to. And it's like, if they chose Hunter Biden, if that dumb committee, if that committee of idiots chose Hunter Biden to be like the main guy, it's like, boy, did we dodge a bullet.
Mm-hmm. And when they put the mic in front of his face, he tries to light it.
All right. Excellent. That's how you do it, Tom. Up next, the media plays the victim.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.